Hello, everyone. It's Cheryl Millett live at 5. No, it's not live at 5. It's live at 8 today. But live at 5 just rolls off my tongue these days because of I guess it's about a year and a half now with live at 5. But this is a little bit different today. Today's video is different, and therefore I didn't really want to make it a part of the Live at 5 on Monday, because Monday is more about bringing in awareness and education and some fun stuff, right? So hi Ivan, hi Marcia, hi Wesley. So Marcia, who's on here, which I will just say, it was a meeting that we had with the Holistic Chamber of Commerce that spurred this on. I think it was at least a couple of months ago, maybe 3, and Marcia might remember that. Hi, Marcia. So the idea is, for many years, nothing new for me, that I've done several things. Even when I was in corporate, there were other things that I did to make money. If that's what I'm going to how I'm going to frame things, what do I do? I don't mind even keeping things a mystery. I really don't. It's kind of, who wants to talk about themselves and certain conditions and certain things I roll and dive with, and when that is warranted. And it surely does put, as they say, a variety's a spice in life. So this is great. It's great to have. I really like that part about the various things that I do. And again, since I was young, I've had, I dabbled in fashion. I did acting. So even when I was working at the tour operator, even before then, in the offices, I was doing acting. I remember doing night heat. I remember there was in-between jobs, so I was working nights, driving home when the sun was coming up, and they took that seriously. They did the filming in the evening, so yeah, you were up all night. But I also was contracted to do oil painting. So there were times when I did it again part-time, as working, doing office work. And somebody would want a painting, and I would ask them, well, what do you want? What are you thinking? Where does it need to go? Figure out size, colors, and then I would just paint them a picture. Oil painting, because I've been doing it since I was 12. And my last few paintings were actually gifts, and it's kind of fun, sentimental value, and interesting that way. But yeah, I do have the Holistic Chamber of Commerce to thank for why I'm doing this. But in speaking to a doctor who I was having an iridology session with the other day, I want to start off today's call with just what I said to him, which he hadn't really thought about, but was the idea that I guess I'll start with thoughts matter. Thoughts matter. But the idea is, I have a health practice, yes, and do a few things, but I want to be out of a job. That's really what I want to be out of. I want everybody to be healthy enough that I don't need to practice that part. I can just go and, do more oil painting, or do photography, or have the garden project that I'm thinking about at certain public gardens. So really, I don't even want to be doing what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing, but wouldn't it be so great? We didn't have, I don't even like to put stats out there, but thinking about why I do what I do is, there really is a lot of facts and stats that talk to not just Canada or North America, not the Western diet, but globally, that we have, a diabetic epidemic, or cancer, 1 out of 3, 1 out of 2. We hear these numbers. I don't even like to put those numbers out, especially the numbers. I kind of always would back off. Never wanted to say the numbers that they were projecting, because again, thoughts matter. And so if we start thinking about these things, then that's kind of crazy. And I mean, I'm going to kind of go into the holistic hive that also came up in the meeting as I'm going to frame everything that I do. But the idea is the fears that come with all of that. I remember doing a presentation for TDSB. It was a whole afternoon. And what I learned was that teachers, first year in practice, actually, it's very stressful for them. You know, that's what I learned. And I was to come in and help with, you know, health and nutrition and how to manage stress. The questions that I were getting were all based on fear. Fear they're going to get cancer like their relatives. I can't remember the specifics. Heart attack, like the brother passed from a heart attack, and on and on. And what I want to kind of put out there is really how we think about things will determine what direction we're actually going to go in. So back to my intention is to work my way out of a job of helping people have better health. Now, will that happen in my lifetime? I really don't know. Do I want to say no? Do I want to say no? It doesn't matter. We'll work with today. But that's kind of my goal there. And probably then we'll kind of get into talking right now about the various things. But hi, everyone. I'll just say hello to everyone. This is great. Good to see everybody. So the idea is I want to, work my way out of a job. But let's just talk about, now there's 12 things and the ways that, and this was kind of like a criteria, just put as a criteria of making money. And whether it's this much or it's that much or it's more of the time, less of the time, I mean, it kind of can shift, and it's surely gone through stages over the last 12 years. But number one is definitely the consulting. The consulting, clients come, they're trying to, figure out what's going on in some cases. And for all the reasons, I mean, there are crazy stuff that's going on out there that some of you might not be aware of. And maybe it's probably better that you're not aware of it. I totally sometimes just go, it's best that you don't know. But I'll just focus on traumas, traumas of all natures, so mental and physical, because the consulting works with both the physical and the mental or the mind, and they go together. You cannot separate them. From the standpoint of what goes into your head, be it, let's say, worry, it's worry of a future something, and that changes the nervous system. You don't even digest properly. You might not even be sleeping properly. So the mental has an effect on the physical, and the physical, if you're just putting in junk food or a lot of caffeine, highly processed foods, eating too much, how you're eating too quickly, all of these things can make a play on stressing out the body, the nervous system, or just from the nutrients that the body needs is not coming in. So you're almost like starving. I mean, people think that people, when they're hungry, it could be from dehydration, but quite often they will say, you will read that your body's just starving for nutrients. So just, but when you're under a lot of stress, you naturally crave carbs. It's a wonderful, beautiful thing if you're under stress or something's chasing you or you have to think or something in the moment. But the idea is that stress is more of a chronic thing. It's just kind of a low level there all the time, and it's not the lion, and it's not short periods of time or once in a while. So carb cravings are something that our body does for the reason it does, very natural. So consulting works both on the mind. What are you thinking about? What are you worried about? What things affect you? I'm trying to think of some scenarios. Anger. There's definitely people, clients that are really aware of certain emotions that just cannot leave them. So you know how they say the grass isn't green over on the other side, so it doesn't matter what's kind of coming at them or for them in some ways, the anger keeps coming up. So many of these, many of my clients that come in have, it's unique. Every one of you out there will have a unique story, and that is so valuable for me to hear your story. Hear your story, your unique story. I can't tell you, just there's not one that's the same. And from a physical side, I can't tell you how often people come in with a whole purse, bag full of supplements, and my question to them is there any one practitioner that knows you're taking all these supplements? And the answer back is 100% of the time, no. And so I'll work with people on that. What do they have? What have they done? And, those kind of things. They have that scenario. It's just a very small part of it, but quite often they are. And unless I bring it up for them to bring their supplements in, they may not even think about it. They're just kind of doing that. It's just kind of like their routine. And for some people, they've been doing it for so long that way. So that's hive, and the holistic hive, number one. So we're talking like a honeycomb here. It's very sweet, very sweet. So number two, I'm going to look at the list because I could probably ramble them off, but this will be easier. So number two would be iridology. Now, I'm not sure if anybody here is familiar with iridology or completely not familiar with iridology, which is more of the case, I have to say. But iridology was something that I experienced a long time ago, never forgot it, going, how can this doctor, it was in Mexico, part of this kind of spa, how can this doctor even share this with me just by looking at mine? So I've always remembered that when I had an opportunity to study iridology in a clinical study. So I'm, I think, a certified clinical iridologist. And the second part of the hive, or one of the hives, is one of the honeycombs, one of those pieces of the honeycomb, is cell. That's it. The second cell of the honeycomb is iridology. And what I like about iridology, yes, I can do a reading, but I've also brought in creating a presentation workshop where people get to see what I'm seeing, and they get to learn about how the body's connected. So, not to smile at Christmas. Marcia says, at the Faculty of Education back in the 70s, we were instructed not to smile until Christmas. Very interesting, very interesting. To do with iridology, I'm trying to feel that one out, Marcia. To do with iridology, if for those who don't know what it is, or even for those who do kind of heard of it, quite often you're not quite sure what's kind of going on. I don't even know if this is going to come up. Well, let's see. Oh, it does come up very nicely. So this is a picture of an eye. I know it's a big picture of an eye. I'm trying to take the glare out. And when I take pictures with a special camera, it comes out like this, a very big picture of the iris. And the idea with iridology is that the nervous system with your whole body is vibrating into the fibers around the eyes and showing whether or not there's a lack of energy, but chronic, so more, less vibration in those cells. But there's also coloring, markings that come in. So we don't talk about diseases in iridology. There's no labels. Labels were given by the medical institution just so that they can talk to each other and discover certain things and prescriptions and so forth. But in iridology, there's none of that. So it's congestion, it's toxicity, it's inflammation, irritation. So you can have congestion in any part of the body. There's a map, a clear map. So the cell number 2 of the hive is doing iridology readings for those who are interested, and let's see what's going on in the body beyond what you can feel. It's just there. Even the constitution is there. And that will answer questions for people. And then the other part of it is doing the workshop. So I get to bring people together to better understand how the body's connected. And then I take pictures of their iris, and email them to us. So it's great to have a benchmark with Iridology. I probably highly recommend most people just get it now, whether you have a reading or not. Children from the age of 5 up, and you can see how their diets work for them. You can see their constitution earlier if it's easy to take pictures. But that's cell number 2, and that's Iridology. I don't know, what does Marcia say? The point of this instruction at the Faculty of Education was for first-year teachers not to smile so their students wouldn't take advantage of their newness as teachers. So then the new teachers would not have the stress in their first year new teachers. So it's a good point. I mean, sometimes, psychology is kind of brought into the mix, right? And we have this strange thing. If you knew there was a new teacher, absolutely, the kids would take advantage of them. They would probably sense that. So we can see why they did it. We can see, I can absolutely see why they would do that, Marcia. I mean, psychology has been used for a very long time, and these days, teachers, I think of all years, from what I understand from my own 2 teenage daughters, that they definitely have a handful with the children. I'm just going to leave it at that. The next thing for cell 1 consultation, cell 2 Iridology, and 3 is the raw mammalian seal oil, which some people label me as the seal oil lady, and I'm okay. I'm cool with that. At conferences, this is with practitioners where I've spoken to them about it. It's probably easier to remember than my name. So that was great. But when I went full-time more than 11 years ago, that dropped in my lap. And yeah, of course I questioned. Of course I wanted to try it. Of course I wanted to see what it was made of and all of that. But I got more than I bargained for. I got politics, I got propaganda, I got all kinds of things that kind of came with that. But I still had a good feeling about it, even beyond the testimonials where, children spontaneously speak, the research where diabetic nerves and eyes grow back, and, cancer treatment causes nerve damage, so very helpful there, not published yet. Or with Olympic athletes, strength and recovery improve for Olympic athletes. I mean, any 1%, never mind like the 5 and 7%, is an improvement. But the idea is, I was always drawn to it, not necessarily just from the results, but the idea that it was raw. It had to do with indigenous and natives, and I just had to buy my time to figure out more about what it is. And still today I'm doing it, but I'll give this key message because I think more and more people these days are more in tune with intuition. I'll just leave it as that, intuition, and things that we might not always see. And when I went on a vision quest with a person who's native, who was part of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce, the seal came into the sea because we're out swimming in the sea, and the seal said clearly, had a message for me, that it said, our oil is wisdom for yourselves beyond the biological. And according to, I won't name any names, this other person who's a vet, very respectable and respected vet, had said to me that the seal had been around, or re-evolved, something about where it evolved. That's what the seal said first. We evolved, and our oil is wisdom for yourselves beyond the biological. Again, intuition and different things, you hear different things, and you just really want to sense things. I give that message for everyone, because even if I say people have this or have that, I don't necessarily believe that they're ready for change. Like I've done presentations and, just kind of consider myself the agent of change. It's about taking people from, A to B. And the seal oil has even opened up the intuition for some people, which is a question that kind of popped into my mind. Is it helping with the mind? Is it helping with the overall, vibration? And I got my answer loud and clear from people who were asking me if it possibly could be helping with the mind and their meditation and that. Not to go into any further detail there, but that's cell number 3. Cell number 3. So cell number 4 is actually the Forced to Walk Club. So for those who know and don't know, that I've run a walk club since the day I left my corporate job. So that's over 11 years. And the idea was I was walking to and from work, and I knew walking was very good for everybody. I mean, it's the one thing that a lot of people can do every day, anywhere. It's free. It's lovely. And so I just started one Sunday morning. So everybody else was in bed, and I've got all this energy to burn. So I started this walk club. So that's what I've been doing. Same format, same time, for the past 11 years. And it's been great. They appreciate it. There's one couple that's joined because of lots of friendships, and they find other things to do as a result of coming together and meeting each other. So that's just that's very enjoyable, and I do that. As a result of that, probably about 4 years ago, I got approached from somebody in Ireland to take people on a walking tour. And the walking tour was, okay, Shadow, hey, have a seat. And the idea with the tour and the walking was to bring some adventure and some fun, get out of the city or country or wherever you live, and to explore something that was not too far. There's a lot of ancient stuff there, and it helped me dive into some history, and even the grandmother had an Irish name. But more importantly, to bring people together who are looking for this, that wouldn't normally be comfortable going on a tour, a walking tour by themselves. And of course, most of them came from the walking club, and then surprise, relatives came as well. So it was all fun. It was great. So that's continued. There's one this year, and there's going to be one next year, probably still in Ireland. There's lots of things to explore there, and there's a lot of people want to go there. So that's cell number 4. Cell number 5. So we're up there. Cell number 6 of the holistic hive is actually tied in more to corporate presentations, or the presentation I mentioned earlier about Toronto District School Board. And it could be NBC, it could be, I'll give you some example, neurofibromatosis hired me to come in and talk about nutrition. So stuff like that. So businesses, corporations, conferences, where I can go in and talk about, and usually it's, nutrition, 21st century, help managing stress with healthy habits and stuff. And then the times and conferences, if it's warranted, I would just do omegas in the 21st century, because the practitioners in themselves are very familiar with fish oil, but they're not so familiar with mammalian oil and the differences. So it's plant and fish and mammal. So I'm able to bring that in there. So that's that segment, and quite often I would customize it, the title, but just how I would approach it. And then for cell number 7 is actually writing. Now this is something coming up, and for some people who know and some people who don't know, I loved writing since I was a kid. I used to write in journals, and creating writing I loved. In fact, I got so crazy over it that I'd have the teachers. I remember this grade, I can't remember, it was grade 7 or grade 8 teacher had said, Cheryl, I want to point out that there is 25 students in the class, and I can't be reading 19 pages for one student. And just like going, yeah, I get it. I get it. So I don't know if I was instrumental in thereafter him saying 2 pages, 3 pages, but yes, I've always loved writing, and I always knew I would write a book. Well, whether I didn't, if I never did wasn't going to, affect me any which way, but I thought it would, just kind of collect enough things and know when the timing is right. So the book is finished. I'm just having some people review it, getting a little bit of feedback, and then I'm probably have to reach out to the literary agent. Anyway, I'll figure out. But by August, I'll have that sorted out, whether it's published, self-published, or it's going to be published. And so stay tuned. It's called All Guts, All Glory, and it's the digestive system on stage partnered with the nervous system. So it's a creative writing. It's not necessarily from point A to B. I wrote some poetry. I wrote a song for it. I did some, I'm going to leave it as that because some of it's meant to be a surprise, and it's meant to, again, bring in what I learned in the early beginnings of studying nutrition was, it was just I remember talking to the director saying, is it just me or does everybody need a digestive protocol? And I could swear she was smiling on the other end, and she says, yes, Cheryl. So I went and embarked and did all my theses on digestive stuff, but I also asked various practitioners around the world and doctors about this whole digestive thing, and then learned that Ayurvedic and Chinese medicine, they were all saying the same thing: core digestive system. And then so if that's something going on, but that's also the healing. That's the starting point of the healing. But the nervous system, the omegas, I learned so much about the brain. That was always my focus more at the lectures on omegas, was about how important it is for our brain. But our second brain is our gut, and that's, simply say it that. So really it's a tie-in of those two and the root cause of all disease. So I think that's very valuable. It's more practical than people think. It's more simple than what people think. But the idea is everything is kind of stemming from that. So I really wanted to spend a number of years actually trying to see if is that it? Is that the root cause, and how does it work? But it seems I can't poke holes in it. I try to, and I still will always do that. But that's the book. So writing is cell number 7, and the book. And then number 8 cell is Wydan. I don't know if anybody's heard of Wydan, and if anybody's ever heard of Wydan, it's probably the one person I heard it from and the people that have been hearing it from me. But I've taken the past several years to practice Wydan, which is an ancient Chinese exercise, a series of movements, 19 in fact, that you do first thing in the morning. And it really helps with so many things: the strengthening, the organs, the flexibility in the spine. And I studied it. I wanted to better understand it, but first and foremost for myself. So 7 years later, I started to run the first class this past June. I'm going to say April, May, because it was before I went to Ireland. And it's to me, it's brilliant. And brilliant means a lot of people can do this, and it can be used as healing, but it can be used as an ongoing preventive. So you can imagine how we're rigid, we sit, we walk, and this is something that, twists the spine, works the neck, and many other things, but also with pressing on the abdomen area. Very important to get things going in the morning. So Wydan. So that's the 8th one. And if you have any questions on any of this stuff, feel free to ask about it. But that was really it's classes, because the whole thing is about taking the 19 moves over 6 weeks, chunking them up 3 or 4, and practicing and just adding them on every week. And still some of the people that took the class are doing them. They have, I wrote it out and made some notes so they could follow it easily. And we're just about doing, so after 6 weeks, I said, well, let's do a refresher. It just helps people, now that they've worked with it, And so that's really about actually bringing that into next month. I'm going to figure that out. Now, the ninth cell of the holistic hive is actually called Move Well for Your Better Health. Now, that's a workshop, and the idea is there's 2 sessions, and there's practice in between them. So because I actually studied YDAN for several years, and then when I did my book, I came up with all kinds of things, and one of them was the series of exercise from a medical doctor over 100 years ago that I could see the similarities between the 2, but it was using a bed. And it takes, instead of 20 minutes, which the YDAN would take, those exercises took 40 minutes and could be done multiple times in the day until things corrected, whether that constipation would help with decalcification. But I saw the familiar moves in there, which is about, the natural curves of the spine and the twisting of the spine to help open things up, yes, with flexibility and so forth. But what I did is I thought, okay, I'm going to make it more interesting for that one. I just got my creative juices going and make it all about the different movements. And it's kind of interesting because they laugh at some, and others are completely not shocked but blown away with. And it's very, the whole thing is you're moving. It's very interactive, and we have the one exercise where we actually bring in the time. I used to time them, and it's fun. It's fun for them to see, and it's a very unique dining experience. So there is some food involved, but moving. So all the things that I could think of that were key and fundamental to health is moving. So that's Move Well for Your Better Health, and I've done that 3 times in the last several months. Very, very, very fun. It's fun to get their reactions and fun to learn from them after 1 week of doing it, and that kind of thing. So that's cell 9 of the holistic hive, and cell 10. And there's only 12, by the way. Just kind of give you a framing here. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming on board tonight. This is great. I mean, I'm hoping to kind of bring some kind of tips and some encouragement, but moving the body is very fundamental. And above the walking, above the gym, even above the yoga, just to kind of do that, and all the various ways of moving breath and things like that. So cell number 10 is a variety of things that I've done over the years, and they kind of tweak and morph. Let's say for a year I did the Roehampton Food for the Soul Society with its chef, and that was bringing in and now for something completely different, and we did demos, and it was a lot of fun. Different things I would bring in, I was teaching about chaga. I'm not sure if chaga mushroom. It's a fungus. It's really hard, so it's not like your soft mushrooms, but it's like the highest antioxidants of everything, even like blueberries. But you got to make it properly, and it's something that I've been selling just small portions of it. Again, it's fun to have people experience things and actually feel good for it, and it's a delicious drink, very, very, and not even that, it doesn't even cost that much. So the various things: Roehampton Food for the Soul Society, but then shifted into this past winter in March, True Nature Retreats with a very good friend of mine who's a yoga instructor, but she does massage and she does things, and we kind of very complementing each other. But the fun thing was we were in teepees for a few days, and so there's the fire, and they're sleeping outside, and the fire goes out eventually. And I'm going to say that the fire in winter doesn't necessarily make you warm. I mean, you have to go very close to it. So always learning experiences. I love to do these things for learning experiences, not just for me, but to bring them forth to others. So Trinity Retreat, we have our second one coming up in October, and we're talking about that. But she works in the film industry, so she's really busy doing film stuff, very, very artsy, very creative. And other things that I've done, calling all artists, most people aren't going to be familiar with that. I want to kind of bring that back. And Awakening Book Club. So the Awakening Book Club is, I think I did that a couple years in a row. I'm kind of ready to bring that back again. And this is bringing books forth that not your typical personal growth books or spiritual books or anything like that. It's really down to earth. But if you're ready for it, there's, you're going to get out of it. Everybody gets out of it different, but it's a book club, but of, different genres. And I pull in the books for that. So that's the 10th cell. The 11th cell, which some people are familiar with, but probably a lot of people aren't, but it's my absolute intention to write songs, be successful at writing songs, and get them out there. I did it as I was a child. You're finding out these things about people, even for me, poetry, there were children, and even songwriting is somewhat like poetry. But I've been doing that, at least for 1 year with somebody, and I was kind of doing it myself. So some of the songs are really fun, Raise Your Vibration, one that I just wrote recently, which is One Track Mind, and one that I was writing today, but I have to record it in the car because I'll never remember them once they kind of pop in. But I probably have about 20, 25, even 30 songs. So the songwriting is very creative, very fun. It's just, clear your head and things pop in or certain things. And I did write one on suicide. Now I know that sounds a little crazy, but it's a little more lighthearted than people might think, and it's supposed to be inspirational. And I could probably sing a part of it now. And I'm just thinking that's probably going to be the end of the song. But it's really like, I'll kind of sing it. I'm talking, so I'm in the talking mode. It's hard to kind of shift to singing, I have to say. But it goes something like this. One light the sun, another light the moon, but the brightest of all is the one within you. Don't quote me on how that's going to be sung, but the idea is to have that come through. And it was inspired out of Facebook, because somebody who's a radio personality actually lost a good friend, couldn't understand it, and I was just walking the dog, and it's like, really, we have to kind of bring that light out. So that's the songwriting. And then number 12, the final one, aside from other little things, but I'm not even going to bring them up, is the Holistic Chamber of Commerce. So the Holistic Chamber of Commerce, years ago, some practitioners might remember, where my goal was to bring the holistic nutritionists together so that they could, bounce things off each other, support each other, and so forth. But it never got off. I was just thinking, people, they know what they know, and egos, you can see that getting in the way, and they're all over the place. And it was just not coming to me, after thinking about it for years and stuff. But when the Holistic Chamber of Commerce came into my awareness, it seemed like, wow, so now we're talking holistic-minded people, businesses, practitioners of all natures, so we can learn from each other, support each other. It's a safe space to talk about all the various things. And some are coming in, they're all at different levels. It's a great group, monthly meeting, and now we just got a brunch that one of the members is hosting, and it's great for her. She's loving it, and it's a lot of fun. People opportunity to practice. It's more laid back. We've had people say, just being very open with their thoughts and feelings about how they're feeling, even to say, believe it or not, being vulnerable, I don't have any friends, or I suffer from depression. And so a lot of practitioners are going through their own stuff. So again, it's a safe space for people to share And it's been great. It's been great. I mean, there's a lot more work I could do. I probably could do it full time, but it's not meant to be a full time income. It's a lot of volunteer work that way, but try to build up the leadership team so everybody's doing a little bit. And we're working on a brochure, a directory to hand out to the community. But it's very important. We just finished a speech, which is to bring education about what is holistic to the community, because there's still a lot of people that are not sure. They're so familiar with the medical. It seems safe to them, but they're not quite sure on the alternative stuff, be it nutrition and acupuncture and so forth. And there's such a wide range of things that can help people. And that's the big piece over the next year, is actually to get this what is holistic speech delivered, not just for myself, but other members, to Rotary clubs and various clubs, businesses, community groups, and just so they could ask questions and feel comfortable asking questions that way of the alternative. So that's really it. So that's 12 cells of the holistic hive. I want to say it's hello Leslie, hello everyone. I want to say that it's clear cut, and that's what it is, and I'm gonna live by that. And if anybody knows me, that's not the way I rock and roll. But for sure, I mean, the things that I've been doing for 10 and 11 years, several years, and some that just starting new, usually they resonate with me at such a deep level that I have no reason to not do them anymore, not to do them, because of how it works. And there's so many things to do out there. Of course, supplements galore, getting calls and stuff like that. But I can't think of anything that I would rather work with than the raw mammalian seal oil, because it's so understood and misunderstood and not understood that it's just of interest to me to kind of bring that from an educational standpoint to people, practitioners and people, so both. Because quite often people don't understand that the medical doctor's hands are tied, even though they're familiar with the research of the nerves growing back in the eyes. This is with type 1 diabetes, which they've never heard of before. Usually the eyes shrink, and at some point there's a level of, okay, well, the amputation is next, and they're, going to go blind. Never before has there been an intervention, a nutraceutical intervention, that actually stopped and grew back nerves on average, 30%, in some cases 60% for the ones that were further along in their nerve damage in the eye. And this is but the whole process of communicating with the University of Toronto and doctors and so forth is that they can't tell their patients about it. It's almost crazy, but they can't. So it's it's up for me to kind of put that education out there, which I think in a lot of respects for health, and it's been years I've been thinking about it, the education. So no matter what profession we're in, quite often people don't know what you know, and it is really getting it across so that, layman terms, we hear that and all of that. So we can all work on that when we're trying to communicate something, how it works or how effective it is or why it may be important, or important piece, right? Because health is a puzzle, right? It's a puzzle, and there's all these pieces, and quite often the puzzle for some people are, well, they haven't put all the pieces together yet, and they don't know what they don't know. And as a healthcare practitioner, fancy word for that, but is to bring in more of these pieces, even if they're just on the sidelines and we haven't fitted into the puzzle yet, as to it's very clear, is to bring these pieces together. And so the puzzle gets bigger for people. The possibilities get bigger for people. It's the idea that we have to expand what we understand. If there's anything going on with our health, and I've come up across this many times where I have looked at everything. I have tried everything. I have, whatever we want to kind of look at it. Well, I would just tend to put it out there that you just keep trying. You just keep looking. Don't give up. You know how they say that. Never give up. And quite often it's similar to a person who's trying to get pregnant, and it's a forced thing, it's a controlled thing, it's there must be a magic bullet. It's that kind of mentality, and then of course they give up, right? And everything relaxes and things start to happen, and they get pregnant, right? So that is similar to with our health as well. We can actually look at it in that way as well. So the puzzle, the possibilities, they just haven't come, they just haven't fit in yet, or the piece hasn't showed up yet. And so quite often, the main thing I do for a number of clients is to, just take a deep breath and look at what's happened, look at what's going on. Yeah, they can share their goals with me. It's a big piece of it. Know that you have goals. You have any goals? Most people, I don't want to put that out there, but are actually thinking they can't do it. That's probably the easiest thing. They don't even know what it is that they're going to be asked to do, at least for myself. And there is that part of them that fear the unknown. What are they going to get me to do? And the feeling like they can't do it. And all of that kind of gets mixed up, and sometimes will stop people or hinder people from reaching out and wanting to do different things. But not all practitioners are the same. I must put that out there. They may be, as the client is unique, they may be unique as well, unless they're right into parroting a curriculum that they take. And that's possible too. That's comfort to them. They've been told this and then do this. And so that's quite possible there. But I'm going to kind of wrap up now. I wasn't planning to go over 45 minutes, 30, 45 minutes. But if anybody has any questions about anything that I have said or mentioned, and more about talking about the cells of this Cheryl's Holistic Hive, was to bring light to even things that exist, even iridology, or even the raw mammalian seal oil. A lot of people don't even know that exists. Even chaga, for that matter, chaga tea, and making that, and how supportive that is. They say it's basically, king of the forest, diamond of the forest, king of herbs, or king of mushrooms. That's the way. And so there's all these heavy titles on chaga. You would think that it's this miracle thing, but I will say to you, it's not so much miracles we're looking for, is the fact that there are things that exist that we might not have heard of, that have existed for hundreds, thousands of years, that people who worked with herbs and natural healing, and the medical pathway was more of a controlled way. And that's, I'm not going to say it's just the magic bullet, but it's working with the symptoms. They're really looking for, if I give you this, this happens. And people are soon finding out that, there's side effects with all of that. And it may be helpful in some ways, but as some of these specialists will say, listen, we don't even really know what some of these prescriptions are doing, especially over certain ages, and also the combination of them. There's not research done on, if you're on the top 5, and quite frankly, medical doctors are actually surprised when people come to them and they say, well, which medications are you on? Like, you're on something and you're not on any medications. There's definitely the move for people understanding the side effects from things, and maybe the first step is complementing your medications with some simple changes and foundations. But there you go. Inspiration, motivation, anywhere you can get it, get it and have fun. So the whole pun thing, if you're familiar with that, is more about bringing some fun in. Laugh. Some of them aren't that great, but that's the purpose of it. The jokes and puns they're not all that, they're not all the, you're going to have better ones. You're going to have ones that are just going to make you laugh. You're going to have ones that are going to make you groan. And that's life, right? Life. So I'm just going to end it there. I want to thank everybody for coming on. I want to wish everybody, a healthy week, best of health kind of thing. And just know, there's possibilities. You can absolutely feel that, or at least get to believing that. And you just have to be open for things to kind of show up. Be open. There's going to be one more thing, or maybe 10 more things, and something's going to click somewhere along the line. Just ask for it and be open for some things to show up. So that's all we're going to do tonight, and live at 5 tomorrow. I look forward to doing that. And just again, it's just all things healthy, whatever kind of comes to mind, whatever kind of drops in my lap over the week, pops into my head. I'm not the one to plan it out for 10 weeks or anything like that. It's kind of be spontaneous, but sometimes some of them are things that have popped in or been part of being a practitioner or clients or so forth from years, but it kind of just comes more to my awareness. So yeah, all good. It's all good. Everything that happens, this kind of cliche, but happens for a reason. And there's definitely more of an explanation for that. And sometimes it is important, definitely in the consulting, to kind of bring that forth as to how, what do you mean by that? Philosophy is very interesting, because I think philosophy is almost tricking people. And it tricks people to think about it more, to ponder it more, or to read it over and over again and see what it means, 10 years ago to 5 years ago to today. And I think philosophy makes me laugh, because it's like there's some trickery there. But the idea is, if everything happens for a reason, why is it happening? It's a very, very good question. And quite often in the counseling part of sessions is, why did I break my arm? And it was a very good question, but there was a whole lot more going on there than what met the eye. And at least I was helpful in figuring that out and how that related to life, into their life. So it's all good, as Leslie said. And what was the name of those exercises you were talking about? Well, there was 2 exercise, Ivan. One is, I can write it down. Oh, this is fun. I've never done this before. Something new. Okay, so I'm going to do, it's why Dan is one of them. So you can look that up. It's got its Chinese name. I'm not quite sure. The Qigong masters, Tai Chi masters, they've never heard of it. And it's a bit of an interesting story. Maybe I'll talk to that on live at 5, because it really does open up something. The other one are called tension exercises. And there's really no name that I've never seen them before. And anybody who's doing any form of exercises have never heard of them. But they're tension exercises, and it's a medical doctor, through the research for my book, that had them at the end of his book. And when I looked through them, it was 40 minutes, and I had to work with them. But I saw the parallel between that and Wyden, and that was probably maybe 2 years ago. I've been working with them for over a year and teaching. So, Ivan, that's those two names. I don't think you can find much of anything on the tension exercises. It was through a very obscure book, and but Y10, you'll be able to read a whole page on it and how it works and stuff. And actually only the names of the 19. So the instruction part of it, there is a a DVD that one can get, and that's how I learned them, from the DVD. But definitely in doing them, you're welcome, Ivan, definitely in doing those exercises, I could see how certain things that I've been able to bring in, whether it's the breathing, and that didn't come into the DVD. So I was able to pick up on certain things. And the fun part about doing the YDAN classes for people is I can actually watch them do it. So after they see me do it, we do it together, and then I watch them do it, I can pick up on things that they can't see, and I'm able to help them out with that. And that, I think, is fundamentally really the key reason as me doing. Otherwise, I say everybody get a DVD, and that's helpful. But there are some things in there that are interesting. So if there's no more questions, of course, you can always ask some more questions after the fact. Some questions might pop in, and you can come and absolutely, because I think when you put questions in here, I'm going to see them anyway. They'll pop up in my messages. So there you go, everyone. I'd love to hear about what you do too. You can put down below what you do. It's always fun to learn what people do. Actually, that really helps me sometimes broaden the idea of why people do things, and sometimes I've learned things from people that they've done and how it's helped, and then I'll have a client the next day, and what I heard from somebody, it might not be what they do, it's something they've done, then I'm able to bring that in to the client. I've learned that's how it works for me sometimes, and then I never need it again, strangely enough. But I've kind of very much like to hear what people do, or some of the things they do, and get conversations and listen to what they do, because sometimes that comes right back into it. Maybe it's for a song now or anything like that. It can be lots of fun, and give examples of things. So there you go. And no more questions. I will call it a night and wish you a very good night and best of health. And hopefully we'll see you on live at 5. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.